Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about LNG. What is LNG? That is liquefied natural gas, and why the increasing reliance of Europe on LNG can have a drastic impact on climate and can accelerate the overall process of climate change which we humans are facing today as one of the most or worst disaster that is going to strike the earth in the coming years. So first of all, to give you the introduction about this particular topic, why we are talking about this particular issue, because the European Union, especially after the Russia-Ukraine war, has started to wean itself on or from the dependency on the piped Russian natural gas by rapidly expanding imports of liquefied natural gas. And most of the liquefied natural gas, also called as LNGs and the sort, are basically being taken or basically being imported from the United States of America, and already it has started to land in the northern port of Germany. And due to this, many climate activists are calling this process, calling this step by the European Union and Germany especially as a major setback in the effort to limit the global warming that was the main spirit of the Paris Climate Summit. So if we talk about LNG basically the dependency of LNG is rising to compensate for the Russian gas whose supply has been stopped almost a year back once Russia invaded Ukraine, and four new terminals are set to come online in Germany alone to ensure that the US is able to supply without any interruption the liquefied natural gas. If we talk about the situations in India, so India suddenly is also facing a huge glut, or we can say oversupply of the liquefied natural gas, because now India is switching from LNG toward the other cheaper sources such as coal and other parts of crude oil. And as the nation customer do not want to pay for high prices, that is why the alternatives are easily available at much cheaper prices, and thus in India we have the oversupply where the reservoirs are filled up with LNG with less buyers. So the question comes, what exactly is LNG or liquefied natural gas? So LNG is, as we have seen from the name itself, it is clear, is natural gas that has been reduced to a liquid state by the process what we call as liquefaction, where intense cooling of natural gas occurs. And due to this intense cooling, when the natural gas condenses somewhere around minus 161 degrees Celsius, it becomes or it converts into liquid phase, which can then be easily stored and transported all across the world. If we talk about this liquefied natural gas, we can understand it is almost in terms of volume 600 times smaller than the original volume and half the weight of the water. The compressed fossil fuel, which is constituted almost wholly of methane, methane as we know is one of the most potent greenhouse gases, can be transported around the world by ship once it has been converted into liquid phase. If we talk about the Kyoto Protocol that was signed in 1991, it has identified six major gases in the atmosphere which are the most important or major greenhouse gases. So CO2 is on the first number, and after CO2 it is the methane, which is the second most potent greenhouse gas, and this is what wholly this LNG is made up. And it is believed that between 10 to 25% of the energy that the gas constitutes is being lost during the process of liquefaction itself. Now let us try to understand that how LNG actually is being extracted from the Earth's surface, especially when we talk about the American LNG that is being continuously supplied to the Europe. So the process is what we can call as fracking process. So fracking is a process in which what we do, we send a fracturing fluid at a very high pressure, which is a mixture of water, sand, and several different chemicals, is pumped into well at very high pressure. And as this fracturing fluid is sent at a very high pressure, what it does, due to this high pressure, the rocks that are present below the earth's surface, they basically start to crack. And as the crack develops within these rock structures, in these rock structures you have the natural gas that is trapped. These natural gas start to come out from these cracks, and thus the proponents hold open these cracks to allow the trapped natural gas to escape, and then gas flows up the well, which is then collected and then converted into liquid phase and then stored for uses. But the problem is that as we are sending this huge amount of fracturing fluid inside the groundwater, obviously there is a potential risk of groundwater contamination or air quality degradation if there is a leak of the natural gas. And if you look at the data, approximately this is also not very environment friendly process. The fracking is the reason why it is very disputed method of extraction of natural gas, because it consumes huge volume of water. If you look at the data from US alone, 70 to 140 billion gallons of water is used to fracture 35,000 wells of natural gas in the US each year. And that is why in those areas of the world, for example, if we talk about India, where the water stress can be very, very debilitating, where large part of India and the population of India is not able to go get potable water, there using such method is very, very disastrous. And that is why India, we have a lot of issues and a lot of protest against the use of fracking, if even do anytime in the future. Not only that, also the other problem is that as we are sending highly pressurized fluid inside the earth's crust, this process cannot take place, like we cannot do this process everywhere, because obviously in those areas where the rock structure is unstable, where there's a probability of earthquake, this can destabilize the rock structure at more faster rate, causing significant or a high magnitude of earthquake. So the contamination of the groundwater, the degradation of air quality, not environment friendly because of the huge volume water that is being used, and also the risk or associated risk of the earthquake makes fracking, it is considered as a least preferred method of extraction of natural gas. Now the question comes that why environmentalists are protesting the dependency on the natural gas or use of the natural gas. So the reason is very, very simple, because obviously as natural gas is wholly made up of methane, which we discuss is greenhouse gas, and in a lot of processes, right from the process of extraction to liquefaction to storage and then transfer from one part of the world to the other part of the world, in the process of production, transport and regasification, there is a higher risk of methane gas leakage. And if you compare the leakage and the damage by leakage, we can understand that LNG will emit almost twice as much greenhouse gas as compared to any ordinary natural gas. And that is why its impact on the climate change will be much more disastrous. Not only that, if you look at the energy and the carbon intensive nature of this particular industry, LNG industry, it can create almost 10 times more carbon emission as compared to the piped gas. And that is why it has debilitating climate impact and people are protesting against its uses. Now, some of the supporters of LNG users have also said this, that LNG terminal which are being constructed these days in Germany can also be used later for the green hydrogen. But this is again, many environmentalists say that this is a false statement, because floating LNG terminals cannot be converted for use of the green hydrogen, because they need to be easily retrofitted for green hydrogen to fast track the clean energy transition, which has not been observed in any of the gas terminals that has been constructed in recent year. And that is why the narrative of green hydrogen readiness of these LNG terminals is simply false. We can say climate activists are protesting against the construction of LNG terminal also. So we have discussed about the term green hydrogen. So let us try to understand that what is green hydrogen. So in simple terms, green hydrogen is such kind of hydrogen which has been developed by using clean or renewable energy. For example, hydro energy, wind energy, solar energy are considered as renewable form of energy, are considered as cleaner form of energy. So once we extract the energy from these renewable sources, then what we do, we use this energy to feed into the electrolyzer, and this electrolyzer is fed up with water. Then once this electrolyzer, the energy is fed into the electrolyzer, due to the current, the electrolyzer splits the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, of which the water molecule is made up of. Then hydrogen gas is separated, compressed and stored separately, and once stored, the gas can then be transported to anywhere in the world for either domestic purposes or industrial purposes. So this method of separation of hydrogen from water, since it is dependent upon the clean energy, that is why it is called as green hydrogen. Now question is that why many people are also contesting or protesting the switch to LNG. So LNG infrastructure is infrastructure development, overcapacity of infrastructure development, and long-term regasification contracts that German companies have signed will also lead to stranded assets should in future Germany shift to some other form of energy, whether it is renewable energy or a cheaper form of energy. Also, many protesters say that it will delay in the phase out of fossil fuel, which should be our priority, not only as an individual country but also as a member of the world community. And third, the most important, is that such kind of steps is nothing but a breach of the national legislation and also international commitments that Germany and other European countries have signed under the Paris Agreement, where they have to bring down the global temperature, or they have to prevent the global temperature from rising by more than 2 degrees Celsius, or if possible more than 1.5 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, that is by the end of year 2100. So this is the reason why the switch to LNG is being heavily contested and protested. Now, if we take a look at the LNG uses and imports in India, India is the fourth largest importer of LNG in the world, and many experts believe that the increase of import of LNG will rise from 8.5% now to almost 20% in 2025. Not only that, rapid infrastructure development is also being witnessed across different regions of India, different ports of India, to ensure that LNG can be transported and shipped as well as stored in the future. Not only that, India is also trying to diversify its sources of LNG, because if you look at last 20 years, earlier if you look at between 2004 to 2014-15, almost entire LNG shipment that is coming to India was being supplied by the Qatar alone. More than 95% of LNG was being supplied by Qatar alone. But if you look at since 2018, 2017 and 18, India is trying to diversify its import basket, and now apart from Qatar, we also have many other players such as Australia, United States, United Arab Emirates, Nigeria, Angola. So this is also what we can call as a situation that will lead to stability in the energy basket of India should we face any kind of disruption from any of the individual sources. So that is the step that has been taken in the right direction. So I hope you understood about the concept of LNG, its problems on and its impact on the climate change, and its current situation uses in India as well as the other part of the world. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more content. Thank you very much.